Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. My dear students, I'm Professor Dr. Atika Masood, and we are now starting with the first chapter of general pathology, and that is cellular adaptations, injury, and death. So the main components that we are going to deal in this chapter will be adaptations, and these adaptations will be hypertrophy, hyperplasia, atrophy, and metaplasia. In injury, we are going to discuss about the irreversible injury and the reversible injury. And in the death, we are going to discuss the apoptosis and the necrosis. So this whole chapter constitutes the main of these things. So at the end of this chapter, you would be able to define cellular adaptations. You would be able to enlist injurious stimulus. You would be able to enumerate different types of adaptations. You will be able to define all of these adaptations like hypertrophy, hyperplasia, metaplasia, atrophy, along with their physiological and the pathological examples. You'll be able to define necrosis and apoptosis along with the examples. You would be able to give us pathogenesis of all of these adaptations. You will be able to define and classify calcifications along with the examples. You would be able to classify pigmentations with the examples. First of all, what is pathology? Path means disease and logos means to study. So, in order to study the disease, there is a subject which is going to be called as pathology. So, whenever there is a disease process, you all know that there will be the structural changes like anatomical changes. There could be a physiological changes like a physiology one. Then there could be a biochemical changes, and these all changes can lead into a disease process. So it is very much essential in the pathology that you should know about all of these changes, and you should know that these changes can lead into the disease production, and this disease production can be diagnosed by the use of the molecular aids, microbiological aids like PCR with the help of ELISA, immunological like immunoglobulin assays, and morphological techniques like histopathological analysis by the use of H&E stains and the different stains. So all of these changes, like if there is a structural change, you can see these by the staining techniques under the microscope. If there is any biochemical changes, like then we can have a chemical pathologist who is going to do for the all the chemical changes. And if there is a functional changes, then we can have a PCR, ELISA techniques, and everyone else. Okay, so the pathology is basically a bridge between the basic sciences and the clinical medicines. So it will be very helpful for all of you that if you are able to know about the disease process, then it is very easy because you are already studying the pharmacology, so you know what drug is there to give in this disease. So pathology is going to form the foundation for all the medicines, while it is a medicine, general medicine, while it is a skin diseases, while it's an ENT, eye, or anything like that. So in pathology, we are having the two major categories. One is the general pathology, which is concerned with the reactions of the cells and tissue to any of the abnormal stimulus or the inherited genetic defects or inherited metabolic defect. While systemic pathology is concerned with the alterations in the specialized organs and the tissues that are responsible for the disorders that are involved in this disease process. Rudolf Virchow, or as you all must have heard his name, is a father of the pathology, and he says that cellular pathology is not an end if one cannot see an alteration in the cell. So the chemical chemistry is going to bring the clarification of the living processes, and these chemical changes are going to bring forward the anatomical changes. So each anatomical change behind its basis must have been the chemical one. So it's a basic understanding that you should know the chemical or the pathological process or pathogenesis of that disease, which is going to brought about certain change. So, in this chapter, the most important thing is you should remember this saying of the Charles Darwin theory, that it is not the strongest of the species that is going to survive, nor the most intelligent one, but it is the one that is the most adaptable to change. So, anything that has a capacity to adapt itself according to the environment has the capability to go forward. Now, for further, I would like to mention that this is a normal cell, and if this normal cell is under a lot of stress, then adaptation is going to happen. And for all of you people, you should remember that this adaptation can be of four types. It could be hyperplasia, it could be hypertrophy, it could be atrophy, it could be metaplasia. But if this stress or if this injurious stimuli is for a longer duration of time, then it will be inability to adapt, so there will be the cell injury. If we are going to talk about the cell injury could be of two types. Irreversible cell injury, if the stimulus is severe, or the progressive one. But if injurious stimulus is mild or transient one, then the injury could be reversible injury and cell can go back to its normal shape and size and its normal functioning. But if this injurious stimulus is severe in nature and progressive, then it can lead into the irreversible injury, and irreversible injury can lead into the cell death. We can have two types of cell death. One is apoptosis, which is a physiological cell death, and the other one is a pathological cell death, which is the necrosis. So, as far as nature of we have just talked about in our previous slide about the injurious stimulus. So, your main question should be, what are the injurious stimulus? So, now our concern is regarding the injurious stimuli. So, as far as the nature of the injurious stimulus are concerned, one is the altered physiological stimuli or the non-lethal injurious stimulus. Then there could be a pathological stimuli also. So, we are going to discuss every one by one. So, in a normal physiological stimuli, we could have an increased demand. This increased demand could be a physiological, just like an exercise, which is an increased demand of the oxygen. It could be an increased stimulus by the hormones or by the growth factors, or this can lead into this increased demand and this increased stimulus by the growth hormones or by the growth factors or the hormones can lead into the hyperplasia and hypertrophy. So this is the most important thing, that the increase in demand can lead into the whether into the increase in the number of the size, increase in the number of the cells, or increase in the size of the cells. Then we have decrease in the nutrients or decreased stimulus by the hormones or by the receptors. Then it can have the atrophic effects. Okay? So we are going to have a decrease in the number and decrease in the size of the cell. If we are going to have a chronic irritation because of smoking, because of GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, or any other thing, then our epithelium or one type of cell is going to be converted into another type of cell, and we have another form of adaptation, that is metaplasia. So change of one type of cell into another type of cell is going to happen, especially in a chronic irritation state. Then we have reduced oxygen supplies. Then we can have pathological injuries like chemical injuries, carbon tetrachloride injury. We can have microbial infections. Nowadays COVID is very common, everyone can have the COVID, and so many of you have people in the family who have been affected with the COVID virus. So it's also a type of the microbial infection, because in microbial infection we are going to talk about bacteria, we are going to talk about viruses, we are going to talk about protozoans, fungi, and everything. So these chemical injuries, these microbial injuries could be acute ones for a shorter duration, and these could be for the progressive and severe one, so which are going to include the DNA damage also in a severe injury. So if these are acute and transient, then it could be acute and reversible one, and this is followed by the cellular swellings because of the intake of the water inside along with the sodium. But then if it is progressive and severe, then it can lead into the irreversible injury, and irreversible injury, as I have told you, can lead to the cell death, whether in the form of necrosis or apoptosis. Then we can have metabolic alterations. These metabolic alterations could be of genetic type, or these could be of acquired type, and these can include chronic injuries, and they can result like metabolic alterations in form of alcoholic cirrhosis. Fatty cirrhosis can lead into the intracellular accumulation like hemochromatosis. There is an iron accumulation in fatty liver. There is a storage of the lipid within the fat cells. Then we can have in dead cells we have calcification soaps, or accumulation of the calciums in the body. Then we can have a cumulative sublethal injury, and we all are undergoing this type of sublethal injuries, and in the Europe and especially in the China, the whole of the new research is basically based upon the prevention of this sublethal injury over a long time, in which we have the other name is the aging process, and people are working on the antioxidants and other things to reverse this aging process. So all of this are included into your injurious stimuli. So if you are going to proceed further, for this you are going to get question, which is your also a homework for today, that you are going to tell me about the causes of cellular injury, which ranges from the gross physical trauma to the single gene defect that are going to result in the defective enzyme. So you have to mention me the 6 important categories of the injurious stimulus that can be grouped, and 4 potentially toxic agents that I have just told you about, like carbon tetrachloride, like bacteria, that viruses which are present in the like smoke, like cigarette smoke, like arsenic in our waters. So these are the potentially toxic agents that we are going to deal within our polluted environment. If we are going to talk about cellular adaptations, the exact definition of the cellular adaptations include that the cells that are capable of adjusting their structure and functions in response to the various physiological and the pathological conditions are called as cellular adaptation. I just want to give you an example of the cellular adaptation. Like this is, we have just finished our winters and we are shifting our wardrobes. If we are keep on wearing the sweaters, if we are keep on wearing the coats, mufflers, caps, then what is going to happen? Our body will be heat up like anything. So we are ending up into the hypothermias. So it will result into the death of the tissues. So human body also have to adapt itself. So we are always adapting. If we are going to, another example of adaptation is that if you are going to Saudi Arabia, your dress is going to change, your conduct is going to change according to that environment. So the people who are not going these types of adaptations, they are not going to survive in that environment. So just like that, just like people, if the cell is not going to adapt, the cell is also not going to survive. So this cellular adaptation is very, very helpful. So in the cellular adaptation, we have 4 types of cellular adaptation that I have just told you about. The atrophy, which is the shrinkage of the cell, whether the amount is going to decrease or whether the number is going to decrease. Then hypertrophy, increase in the size of the individual cell. So this is the muscle cell. In the hypertrophy, what is going to happen, that the individual cell is going to be bigger in size. While in hyperplasia, if you are having 2 epithelial endometrial cells, then these cells will be more in the number, and you can have more than 2 cells, like 6 cells, like 7 cells or 8 cells. So the resultant will be the increase in the size of the organ or the tissue. In metaplasia, you are going to have a transformation of one adult cell type into an other adult cell type. Like from the squamous epithelium, you are going to have a conversion into the intestinal epithelium. So in the intestinal epithelium, we can have a goblet cells, we can have intestinal metaplasia, and this is because of the stimulus that is going to be called as GERD. GERD means gastroesophageal reflux disease. So I hope now it is very easy for you to understand about the cellular adaptation. So the question is, if a bodybuilder is going to develop his muscle mass by doing regular exercises, what type of adaptation is this? You have to give me an answer. So the answer is basically that the bodybuilder wants to develop his muscle mass. So muscle, as you know, that is non-dividing type of thing. So if it is a non-dividing type of thing, hyperplasia can't happen there. So what we need to have is hypertrophy. So you are going to tell me about the mechanism of the adaptation, and the whole process of atrophy we are going to discuss after that. So first of all, we are going to discuss about the hypertrophy. Hypertrophy basically refers to increase in the size of the cell, which is going to be have an increase in the size of the organ. The hypertrophied organ has no new cells, just larger cells. Okay? The increase in the amount of these is because of the synthesis of more structural component of the cells. Like there will be more in the number of the mitochondria within the individual cell. There will be more in the increase in the endoplasmic reticulum for the production of the proteins and other things. Like the cells which are involved in the hypertrophy are like cardiac cells, like neuronal cells, like muscle cells, because they are incapable of division. If cells are capable of division, then hyperplasia and hypertrophy both can happen in response to the stress. So your next MCQ for today is, you are going to tell me about if there is an increase in the tissue mass in the non-dividing cell. Option A is hypertrophy, option B is hyperplasia, option C is regeneration, D is metaplasia, and E is dysplasia. Hypertrophy can be a physiological one and it can be a pathological one. And it can cause because of the functional demand or by the stimulation of the hormones and the growth factors. The most common stimulus for the hypertrophy of the muscle is increased workload. Okay? Hypertrophy, the massive physiological growth of the uterus during the pregnancy, is the best example, because myometrium can't undergo rapid production. So the muscle fibers are going to go for the hypertrophy. Like in the bodybuilders, we have a pumping iron channels, and these iron channels are going to result in the increase in the individual demands of the muscle fibers, and it is due to the increased demand of the oxygen also. But these all are the physiological one. Now we are going to discuss about the pathological one. In the pathological one, we can have a chronic hemodynamic overload, and because of this chronic hemodynamic overload, now your question should be, why there could be a chronic hemodynamic overload? This chronic hemodynamic overload could be because of the hypertension, it could be because of the faulty valves. So because of this, there will be the backflow pressure. And if there is a backflow pressure, what is going to happen? That both types of the muscle cells are going to synthesize more proteins and more number of the myofilaments. So the increases the amount of the force of the each myocyte can generate, and these myocyte can help in strengthening the work capacity of the cardiac muscle assets. So here is a flow sheet. Here you can see, my dear students, that we have a very much normal myocyte, and these are the ventricular cavities. But if there is a stress because of the overload or anything like that, the cell size will be increased. And when there will be the hypertrophy of the individual cell, then what is going to happen? Here you can see that the cavity is going to be narrowed down. If the cavity is going to narrow down, then the further backflow will be more. So further pressure will be more. If there will be the severe backflow pressure, and if it is for the more longer duration, then myocyte will be injured. And this injury first will be the reversible one, and then it will be the irreversible one in the form of necrosis. Here you can see this blackish injured or dead tissue is the necrosed dead tissue. Here you can see a gravid uterus and a non-gravid uterus. This is a very much normal uterus, and here you can see this normal uterus is very much smaller in size, almost 1/4 of the size of the gravid uterus. And if you can see on the histology, this is an individual myometrial cell, and here in the hypertrophy segment you can see that this individual cell has gone such a bigger size, so 10 times bigger. So in order to have a space for the fetus, in order to have a patience for that fetus to endure that labor case, this cavity has to grown up into much a bigger size. So this is a physiological hypertrophy. So the pathogenesis of the hypertrophy includes three major factors. First one is the mechanical stretch or increased workload, and this is happening in the bodybuilders. Second one is the agonists, which are going to attach in the form of the hormones or the angiotensin receptors or anything like that. Then the growth factors could be insulin like growth factors, fibroblastic growth factor, transforming growth factor beta, and all of these three things can induce the signal transduction pathways. And because of the induction of the signal transduction pathways, we are having the transcription factors induction. These transcription factors are going to take the cells within the cell cycle, and because of the induction of the Fos-Zinc or MYC pathways, there will be the induction into the fetal genes. Like in the cardiac hypertrophy, there will be the cardiac alpha-actin or atrial nucleic factor increase, and because of this there could be increased synthesis of the contractile proteins and production of the more growth factor, and this all results into the increase in the mechanical performance and decrease in the workload. But this is a very for the transient time period. In the next lecture we are going to do the hyperplasia, inshallah. Thank you very much